You are listening to the So Now What podcast with Lana Manikowski, episode number 168.
So now what? These three words raced through my mind time and time again during my journey through fertility treatments. I tried desperately to have a child, but never was able. I yearned for a community to join that could understand my struggles. I couldn't find one, so I created one with the So Now What podcast. I love that you found us.
Hello, my gorgeous. I'm just thinking about you as I'm recording this because I know this past weekend with Mother's Day might have been really hard for you. And I want to acknowledge some things as we're talking about this week's episode that might help you to feel as though you aren't the only one. Because I know so much of this journey has felt like you are this party of one, just marching through life and wanting to feel connected, but you just don't know exactly where to go to find it and how to create it. But before we get started on that, I went to a Chamber of Commerce meeting. I don't know if you could see, I got like cute little linen blazer on with the gold buttons. If you're watching on YouTube, check out my cute little outfit. And it was like fun to get dressed up and feel like I was in business attire again, especially after my accident back in November. So I wondered what's important about me showing up today. And so I gave it some thought in the car, and I decided that it was important for me to introduce myself as somebody who's interested in seeking connection for people who are in the mental health space, in the women's health space, and anyone who knows anybody who has navigated infertility. There was, I don't know, maybe 60 people, maybe more. And I just felt like I was in my element. I brought these cards with the cover of my new book called So Now What? And on the back, it had info about my coaching practice and a QR code to get more information about the work that I do. And I just literally went around and talked to people and told them my story. And it felt really good. Thursday, I got invited by the chairman of the Reproductive Endocrinology and Infertility Fellowship at Northwestern University, Dr. Eve Feinberg. I met Dr. Feinberg when I was attending the American Society for Reproductive Medicine's annual Congress this past October in Denver. And I asked her if she'd be interested in meeting up and learning about some of the work that I do. At that time, the book was not out yet, but when we met up a few months ago, she invited me to come speak to her fellows and the residents that are doing their rotations through REI. I am so nervous, but I'm so excited because I have an opportunity to talk to the future of reproductive medicine, to shape the language that they're going to use when they are talking to patients about their journey, about their outcomes. And I would really love, if you're listening to this podcast episode, email me at hi@lanamanikowski.com, or if you follow me on Instagram at lana.manikowski. Let me know if you had the opportunity to tell someone how you wanted to be treated or the communication path in which you wanted to be on with your reproductive endocrinologist when you were either going through fertility or when it was coming to a close and you knew that you were going to end up childless. What type of resources do you wish that they would have offered? What type of conversation do you wish would have taken place about remaining childless or being childless or the path to childlessness? So let me know, drop me a quick email, and I'd love to just share it with them with like, hey, these are real life patients. These are people who, like me, have been through the throes of infertility and forced to navigate it alone. All right, so let's get into today's episode because we're talking about something that I believe is essential when you are childless after infertility, and that is connection. So I want to take you back to 2011. That was the year I received my infertility diagnosis of unexplained infertility. I was 37. And in that moment, instead of reaching out, I pulled inward. I didn't tell anyone that I was going to the doctor. I didn't tell anyone about this diagnosis that I got because I thought I was the only one. And maybe you've been there too. Like maybe you get this life-altering diagnosis and your first instinct is to hide, to figure it out on your own, to muscle through it quietly, because if you admit how much it hurts and if you ask for support, you might be fearing that it'll mean that you're not strong enough. For me, the silence was even more jarring. I was always the girl who on the report card got the talks too much check mark. next to my name on every report card. Words have always been my way to process. I have always been a talker. To connect, to make sense of what I'm feeling was something that I was able to do by verbalizing things. So suddenly to be swimming in shame and uncertainty of my infertility diagnosis and unable to talk about it was absolutely foreign territory to me. Maybe you know that feeling too, when your voice disappears right when you wish you could find it the most. When you're not just grieving the loss of the dream, but also the loss of who you are or who you thought you were going to be. And if you're like so many of the women that I work with in my coaching practice, you might judge yourself for needing help. You tell yourself, you should know how to handle this. Or you think, why can't I just be okay? Why can't I figure this out? Why can't I just deal with this? But when you weren't taught how to be okay after a dream like motherhood starts to slip away, it's no wonder why this is so hard. No one gave you a roadmap and no one sat you down and said, here's how to live a beautiful life that doesn't look anything like you had planned. So it makes so much sense that when you go through fertility treatments and end up being the one who didn't become a mom, that connection can feel totally and completely out of reach. You might have looked around and felt like everyone else you know who went through fertility treatments was able to succeed. They did it, they made their child, and you were left holding a body that could not deliver, a calendar that's wide open and feels strangling, a heart that's aching, and a silence of the people around you that feels and gets heavier. And then you have the people who ask those seemingly innocent questions like, how many kids do you have? Or they tell you, you know, you can always adopt, or who's going to take care of you when you get older? And you just freeze because behind every one of those comments is a story that they just don't know, a story that you've lived where you have been trying, you've been hoping and grieving year after year. And when they offer those solutions and those seemingly loving comments that try to fix us, they don't realize how dismissive it is of what we've tried. They don't see the heartbreak behind your eyes, and it's like you're invisible. Not because you don't have children, not because you couldn't figure it out, but because people keep trying to fix a problem that they just don't understand. They don't realize that you're not looking for fixes. You're looking for someone to see you. Here's the thing that changed my life, and I'm hoping it will change yours too. You aren't meant to carry this alone. You were never meant to go through this without a community. Humans need other humans. I mean, it's been since the beginning of time, the cave people time. I mean, there were packs of people, there's packs of animals, there's schools of fish. Like, people need other people. And that doesn't fall by the wayside when your fertility journey ends and you are the only one seemingly who is infertile and childless. Connection and this craving for it is the most natural thing in the world. But let's be honest, our fertility clinics didn't exactly help us feel connected. They might have given us SART rates and stats and protocols and injections and phone calls with test results, but they did not give us the space to talk about grief. They didn't ask about our identity, our friendships, or how we're going to make a sense of a life without motherhood. And I'm not here to make this a bitch session about the fertility clinics, but I just want to lay it out on the line here because you might think that you just went to a place that didn't match up. But I'm going to tell you, for the hundreds of women that I have talked to about this topic, you aren't the only one. The fertility clinics gave us science. They gave us great doctors. They gave us years and years of information and a support system that they only know how to give. And I don't fault them for not being able to give it because I don't think that they have the opportunity to know how to. That is why I created this podcast in 2021. Because after years of navigating this path, I saw how few of us were being seen. And I don't want women to suffer in silence the way that I did. And that's why I decided to become a certified life coach. why I decided to quit my corporate 20-year career the eve of my 50th birthday to coach full time, because I knew that thriving after infertility is not just about acceptance, it is about connection. Inside my Thrive After Infertility coaching program, I watch women go from feeling like they were broken to waking up with this sense of possibility again. They learn how to forgive their body and reconnect with their body after years of feeling like it failed them. They start to create friendships and find friendships that don't always revolve around kids. And they learn that you can spend your time feeling meaningful and excited and fulfilled and not just sitting there waiting for life to happen. They stop feeling like the only one, and you can too. I see it every year at the Others Day brunch. Like just this past weekend at the Others Day brunch, over 50 women gathered in downtown Chicago. Most of them walked in not knowing a single person and left exchanging phone numbers, Instagram handles, making plans for the next day. And even though they walked in there not knowing a soul, they came anyway. I witnessed people hugging each other, laughing together, and just like feeling like friends. And then, like, the people that walked in with someone that they met last year at the brunch, and they've become friends through the connection that they made at the Others Day brunch. That is the connection that more women deserve to see. Because when you're in a room with people who finally get it, something shifts inside of you. There's just this ability to soften and breathe easier and not grasp for the question that makes you feel as though you didn't do enough or try hard enough. You remember when you like look around this room that you aren't alone, and you were never alone. You just had not found your people. Maybe your moment of connection isn't at the brunch in Chicago. Maybe it's saying yes to a coffee invite. Maybe it's joining a book club. Maybe it's replying to a message or a post on Instagram or TikTok, because choosing to show up even when you're scared, that's where the healing begins. When you start seeing yourself reflected in somebody else's eyes, and somebody who says, I know what that feels like, even though they might not have experienced the same exact thing you did, you suddenly realize that you are not alone anymore. You don't have to pretend, you don't have to explain, you just get to be. And that is where everything begins to change. So, as we wrap up today on this episode, I just want to bring it back to what it's really about. It is finding the connection and creating the connection for yourself that you deserve. It is leaning forward when you hear someone talk about something that makes you say, oh, I wonder what that would be like. I wonder if I'll be able to do that. I wonder if my life will ever feel that way. You have to lean in, girl. That's all I'm saying is, like, you have to know that connection is not for the sake of being busy. It's not surface level connection that leaves you feeling more alone than before, but like this real soul level connection, the kind that reminds you, I matter, I belong, I am still whole. You've been through enough on your own, and you've been strong for way too long. Now it's time to let somebody in. You don't have to hide anymore. You are allowed to have yourself be witnessed and to let the walls down just a little and see what happens when you stop hiding. And you hiding is not a judgment. You just didn't know that there was more for you. Because when you say yes to connection, you stop hiding. And when you say yes to feeling as though your story is worth speaking of, your future begins to open up. And yeah, I get it. It is not the one that you planned, but is one that is so beautiful because you are part of it. You make your story beautiful. You allow yourself to feel seen. You tell your story to others in a way that makes you feel proud of who you've been, even if things worked out so differently than you thought. Thank you for being here today. If this episode touched you, please share it with a friend. Please message it to somebody who might be walking this path too. If you feel so compelled, post it on your socials, tag me. So I love you. I hope you have a beautiful week. And remember that it's never too late to discover your meaning. I'll talk to you next week. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to tell you about an awesome resource I created. If you have ever found yourself in conversations with people, or maybe people offering you suggestions about what you should do to become a mom, it's called the Top 27 Things People Say When You're Childless and How to Respond. You can get your copy free at lanamanikowski.com/things people say.